Okay, so the term ancient Egypt is a little bit vague. People have lived in the Nile River valleys since prehistoric times. The Pharaonic period, when the region we now call Egypt was ruled by a pharaoh, lasted from the 32nd century BC until 332 BC, when the country fell under the rule of Alexander the Great. Obviously, fashions change over a period of 3,000 frickin' years. You know you're a 1190 BC kid if you remember when they invented the shoe.
Oh snap, he got them Ramses 4s!
But the height of Egypt was the New Kingdom, which lasted from the 16th century BC to the 11th century BC. It was during this time that Egypt was the most prosperous and controlled the most territory. It was also in this time period that King Tut, who had a condo made of stone, ruled. We'll fix our fashionista focus on this era. Ancient Egyptians were innovators in the important field of eyeliner technology. They wore black makeup called kohl around their eyes for two reasons. The reason that football players do, and also for the reason David Bowie did. It protects the eyes against sun glare, and it looks absolutely fantastic while it's there. The New Kingdom was an extremely prosperous time for Egypt, mostly because they were expanding their empire through military conquest, which was nice for them, I guess. The good times were rolling and everybody liked to show it off with jewelry. Every class in Egyptian society wore some kind of jewelry, with the rich adorning themselves in ridiculous amounts of gold and precious stones, and the poor imitating them with jewelry made of colored glass. The Egyptians believed that you can take it with you, so they tended to be buried with their swankiest stuff. Every time you see ancient Egypt in popular culture, somebody is going to be wearing this headdress. It most famously appears on Tutankhamun's gold death mask, but was made sexy by Yul Brynner in the Ten Commandments. What you don't usually see is the long tail from the back that was meant to symbolize a lion's tail. The headdress, which is called a nemes, is meant to display the divinity and power of the pharaoh, and presumably the stripes made him look thinner. But despite its ubiquity in Egyptian art and on cats with people's heads, this was not the sort of thing the average person would wear. Actually, ancient Egyptians by and large were a culture of Vin Diesels. Both men and women generally shaved their heads bald, though unlike Riddick, they wore wigs. We'd also like to believe that they staged elaborate heists in NOS-powered chariots, but they haven't found any of that yet, so... The reasons for shaving their heads were less for fashion and more to prevent being eaten alive by lice, though they rolled with it. The general fashion was to wear super glam wigs of various styles, including pleated, fringed, and layered hairstyles hanging down to the shoulders or further. The wigs of rich people, like everything else they owned, were often decorated with jewels and beads. Throughout ancient Egyptian art, you also often see people illustrated with these weird cones on their heads. This puzzled archaeologists for a long time because they never could figure out what exactly the things were supposed to represent. Some thought the images were simply symbolic, the way we illustrate saints and angels with halos today. Recently, however, archaeologists have discovered the physical remains of some of these head cones in ancient burial sites. The prevailing idea is that the cones were made of beeswax or ox fat and mixed with sweet-smelling perfumes. Basically, an ancient Glade plug-in. You'd wear the cone on your head, and as you walked around under the hot Egyptian sun, the cone would slowly melt, releasing a pleasant smell. The theory is corroborated by the fact that some art shows zigzagging lines coming from the cones, possibly ancient Egyptian stink lines. It's also worth noting that these cones were found in the graves of common people, which just goes to show that whether you're rich or poor, you still stink. In fact, among the perfumes they would have used were frankincense and myrrh, the same stuff that the three wise men give Jesus. These two fragrances, combined with pine resin and other ingredients, were burned like incense but also rubbed into the skin or used as toothpaste.